Hello, guys. I'm very happy to see all of you here today on our webinar. And I'm really glad that there are so many people who already started to work on their improvements. And let's start our webinar. So today our webinar is about interactive practical case interview simulation, first round interview at one of the leading consulting companies. And our webinar today will be by coaching mentor Andrew Hamalenko, together with one of his clients, Omar. So I suggest you the following agenda for today's webinar. Firstly, I will tell you about format of the webinar and explain you some rules. Then we will make a small introduction so you can know us better. Then we will make a small wrap-up of the previous webinar, how to crack the case interview. Guys who already attended this webinar, don't worry, it will be a small wrap-up, so it will not be the same information. And after this, we will start our main part of the webinar. It will be interactive first round consulting interview simulation. And after this, you will have room for your feedback and your questions. And after this, we will share with you your steps, how you can already start your preparation for the case interview and for the whole applying process. And those who will stay with us till the end of the webinar will have some bonus materials. So the duration of our webinar is going to be 120 minutes, so 2 hours. And firstly, we will make a small introduction for 5 minutes. Then we will make a wrap-up for 15 minutes. Then our main part of the webinar is interactive interview simulation, which is going to be 40 minutes. After this, we will have 30 minutes time for feedback and question and answer sessions, and next steps for 20 minutes. So about our rules for today. Guys, please mute till the end unless you are asked to speak by moderators, so by me, because we will want to hear Andrea and Omar properly. Then if you want to ask some questions, you can write in the chat then. So you can see that you can use Andrea or Omar, depends on whom you want to ask the question. And then when we will have time for this, I will ask you to unmute and speak. And when you will be asked by me, you need to turn on your video and unmute, quickly introduce yourself and ask your question. And also, guys, I want to ask you, please be ready that we can ask you to turn on the camera and your microphone. So we really want to make this webinar very interactive and very energizing. So please be ready for this and enjoy the show. I would like to tell you about us. So my name is Alina, and I'm going to be a moderator for today. I work together with Andrea, and I'm his client manager at Andrew Hamalenko Coaching and Consulting Group. And let me introduce Omar. Omar is one of our current clients. And can you please, Omar, tell us a little bit more details about yourself?
Yes, thank you for the great introduction, Alina, and hello everyone. This is Omar Harb. I am a civil engineering graduate from the American University of Beirut. I graduated back in 2019 and been working in civil engineering since then. Now, for the past period, I have been preparing to take the next big step in my career by joining strategy consulting in the Middle East by the help of Andrea, of course, who has been giving me great guidance with every aspect and every step of the process, from the fit interview part, polishing my documents, networking, and cracking cases, of course. Finally, I would like to thank you for attending our webinar today. I am looking forward for your feedback on my interview performance, and I hope that it's going to be really beneficial for your preparation.
Great, thank you, Omar. We're really happy that you joined us today. And our expert today, Andre, he is career coach and mentor, and he has more than 6 years experience in the sphere of consulting. So, Andre, can you please tell us more details about you?
Yeah, sure, with pleasure. Hi, everyone. It's a great pleasure to welcome you here in that webinar, and I'm so happy that even more people are coming from with every webinar. And I would like to thank you for participating in that webinar. I would like to encourage you to be very active, to use the chat option in order to provide your feedback and of course to ask us the questions, either myself or Omar. We both of us are at your service today, and I just want to point out that Omar might be a little bit nervous today. So usually we've been doing some cases individually, so it's probably the very first time for him that another 36 people are watching. How is he doing? So just put yourself maybe in his shoes. He doesn't know the case yet. I mean, he was calling me like today in the morning, and like, Andre, can you maybe tell me the case, or can you give me the tips for the personal feed part, or can you actually tell me? I just want to look good. So, guys, therefore, I would really very appreciate if you could help Omar to feel a little bit more confident in that setting, to be very friendly with him, and it would be really very good if we all together could cheer up him a little bit just before our interview session will be start to simulate. Can we agree on that? All right, cool. Thank you very
I
much.
can
So,
I can agree on
yeah.
that.
Omar, don't worry. I think you will be a star tonight, so everything will be good. Okay, guys, in case you are just visiting my very first webinar, let me also maybe briefly introduce myself. So my name is Andre Homlenko. I'm a professional career coach and mentor. And my true passion is to help students, MBAs, young professionals, and experienced hires who are looking into new career challenges in order to help them get an offer from one of the leading consulting companies. So over the past year, I was privileged to have been working with more than 70 clients successfully. And I'm very, very happy to see many familiar faces from you who are also part of my client network here. I am happy to deliver the value to you with this webinar. This is also due to the fact that I've been working in consulting for my own for more than 6 years for now. I've been exposed in different regions, in different companies, in different sectors, covering Central Europe, so-called DACH region, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, as well as Western Europe, Central Europe, Northern Europe, Eastern Europe, Russia, as well as I've spent 2 years in the Middle East before moving back to Switzerland, where we are currently residing. And coaching has been a true passion of mine. It first started as a hobby when I helped a couple of friends of mine in order to get their consulting jobs. And later I somehow professionalized this service. And I'm very happy to receive every other week the great news from all over the world, where my mentees are letting me know that they had received an offer from BCG, McKinsey, Roland Berger, Oliver Wyman, etc. And I hope that many of you will be able to send me these news in 2021. So this is my key objective why I'm doing this webinar, in order to help you. All right, so if you don't mind, I would basically quickly recap the content, the theory, I would say, what we have just discussed 2 weeks ago in the previous webinar about how the first round interview in consulting is structured before we actually see how these come into practice together with Omar. So the next part would be like a theoretical repetition, especially useful for those who were not able to attend the previous webinar. And then we will see how to implement all of this into practice together with Omar. All right? Cool. So let's then basically start. So I would like to explain you the interview mechanics, and every interview consists of several steps. On the next page, they are like in the timeline. So there are three key parts. Next page, please. Yeah. There are three key parts in every interview. First of all, this is the feed part and behavioral part at the beginning of the interview. Then you will see the case part, which is dominant, takes most of the time of the interview, and then the candidate's question to the interviewer at the very end. The feed part consists of several components. It usually starts with a very quick introduction from both the interviewer and then the candidate, as well as then CV and motivational questions to the candidate, some personal feed part, typical questions, and then some behavioral questions. Let's have a look at this on the following pages in more details. So the personal feed part, the questions could be like, why actually consulting, or why this job, why this region, yeah, something specific which explains your motivation for anything specifically. It also takes into account the typical questions like, what are your goals? So who would you like to become in 5 years from now or in 10 years? What are your strengths, or what are the things which would be criticized by your previous boss? There are also some critical questions could be asked, like, why do you think you're the best candidate, and why do you think we need to hire you? So this typical stuff, just to put the candidate a little bit under pressure. You will see that in the practical side. As for the behavioral questions, it could be the questions about, like, can you maybe tell me your leadership example, or example of the situation where you felt extremely insecure and you still needed to negotiate with counterparts and needed to persuade them. So how did you do that? And I will provide you with the tips, so how you could answer all of these kind of questions. So for motivational questions, you could use a very simplistic framework, which I call like 3 reasons. So give me the 3 reasons. For example, I would like to work in consulting for 3 reasons. Reason 1, blah, blah, blah. Reason 2, blah, blah, blah. Reason 3, blah, blah, blah. Or in case you need to present any situation, for example, your leadership or conflict management skills, then you can use a very universal framework, which is called STAR plus L framework. So STAR plus L stays for description of the situation, description of the tasks, description of the approach, description of the results, and last but not least, which is really very important, is a description of your learnings. So just to give you an example, for example, if I were asked about what would be my best accomplishment in consulting, I would say something like this. Well, back in 2016, I was a consultant at Roland Berger, and I was exposed in one of the projects in Dubai. So this is the description of the situation. Back then, I came as a firefighter into the project because it was already over delayed, and I really needed to fix the things very quickly. As you see, this is the description of my tasks. So my approach was that I tried to analyze the initial situation, what went wrong. Then I put everyone and locked literally them down into one room until we find the solution, until we develop the vision where we need to go to. And afterwards, I designed my project plan and we started implementing this. This is exactly the description of my approach. So the outcome was that within 6 months, 6 weeks, we were able to completely catch up the delay of 2 months, and we were back on track again. And I started to see the happiness on the face of my clients. So this is the result. So my learning out of this situation is that we really need to have an entire commitment as a team, and therefore everyone needs to have the single mindset and vision of the goal. Like, this is my biggest learning. So in this way, I have just explained you how I would personally act in the interview if I were the candidate and the interviewer would have asked me, or the question about, can you give me an example of your biggest achievement in consulting? So this is exactly how you could apply this structure. All right, let's move on. Yeah, so then about the case solving part. And you will see this because Omar is the perfect candidate. He knows extremely well all these steps of the process, and he simultaneously does this repetitively and consistently in all of his interviews. So after the interview, after I will ask the question about the case, what you will see is that Omar always does the following. He repeats the question, and then he asks 2 or 3 clarification questions in order to make sure that he got the case question correctly. This is extremely important. This is one of the key things of the case, that you don't jump to structure, don't jump into solving very fastly, because the worst thing which can happen to you at the very beginning is that you have lost the objective. Either you don't know what's the objective, or you are trying to solve the wrong objective. And if you didn't clarify that at the very beginning, what is the exactly objective of the case, you are wrong. So we can stop the interview because you will just drift around or you will go in the wrong direction. So there is no sense to continue and speak for the next 20 minutes if you didn't clarify the objective at the very beginning in the proper way. So please write this down, every one of you. This is one of the key learnings of this webinar for you. First of all, clarify the objectives. Then outline the structure afterwards. Only after you have understood what is the objective, then you can take a moment and think about it, and then outline the structure, present this to the interviewer, discuss it, and go on. Then you can solve the case, like bucket by bucket. Then you will proceed to the summarization of the solution, and then you will ultimately end up with making a recommendation. Is that clear to you? Gabriel, thanks for the feedback. Okay, all right. So let's move on. So how to start your case solving, actually. So as we have discussed, asking clarification questions is really important. And I would like to give you a couple of examples. What are the good clarification questions? So if you are not familiar with the company or with the industry we are operating, it's extremely important that you become extremely familiar with this by asking, like, what is the business model of the company? Especially if you don't understand. Like, how does the company makes money, actually? Then the second good question is, like, what are the specific objectives of the case? Like, do you have any specific numbers or KPIs or the time frame when these should be achieved? And then the third one, you can also ask anything specific about the case question if you still didn't get it. All right? So let's move on, please. So then you take your time after you have clarified the objectives and you outline the structure. And then this structure should be MECE. MECE stays for mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive. And it means that your structure should be unique, it should be tailored to this case, and it should include all the components which are relevant in order to solve this case. Yeah, and then after you have presented, you will basically see that Omar always loves to ask me two questions after he has presented the structure. So, Omar, what are these two questions?
Yes. So the first question would be if the structure sounds reasonable for the interviewer in order to find out whether you're on the right track and if you're missing anything. And the second question is whether the interviewer has any preference on where you should start with the case, because it can guide you through your way and you are sure that you're going through the right path.
Yeah, perfect. Nothing to add from my side. So let's move on. Yeah, and then basically you solve the case bucket by bucket. So for example, if your structure has 3 buckets, then you do the following. You start with the first bucket. You derive your hypothesis and you try to test it. So when you are analyzing the first bucket, for example, profitability issue, you say, okay, so like, what's the overall profitability? Okay, clear. Okay, how does our revenues and how does our costs develop? If we have a look into revenues, what are our revenue streams? This could be segmented by customers, by markets, by product lines, or by distribution channels. And then you try to figure out what is exactly the problem of that case. So why, for example, our revenues have been declining majorly over the past 5 years. Like whether it were our customers, whether it were our products, whether it was competition. So is it internal or external problem? What is the root cause? And then after you have found, you really dig very, very deep into the case, into that bucket. And after you have literally figured out what is the problem, then you try fixing it. So you have done calculations, for example, you have figured something out, and then you summarize it. So like you do a very quick recap and summary of the first bucket. And then you say, okay, so now that we have figured out about the first bucket, I would like to go to the next bucket. And then you proceed with the second bucket in the similar way. You also analyze it, dig deeper, you summarize your findings, then you proceed to the third bucket. And in this way, you cover the first bucket, the second bucket, and the third bucket. Then on the next page, it's time to sum up the things. So before doing the recommendation, Omar always likes to ask for some moments of time to structure his thoughts. This is extremely important because at this period of time, Omar is currently looking at what were exactly the objectives of the case. So he remembers them again, then he looks at his findings, and then he prepares the pitch. And the pitch should, Omar, what is the best pitch structure?
Right, exactly. So, when you first want to give your recommendation, the first statement should be answering your client's objective. So, let's say he's asking whether he should enter this market or not. Your first statement should be either yes or no, and then followed by the reasons why you think that this is what he should do. After that, the risks should be stated, and the next step, so moving forward, what would we like to do to help our client in order to mitigate those risks and to achieve his objectives in the best way possible.
Omar,
Yes.
are you missing maybe something?
Help me out if I am.
Yes, sure. So, and then so after mentioning your next steps, there is always, remember that this is a dialogue. This is not a monologue. The case solving is always a dialogue. That's why after you have presented your solution and recommendation, ask the interviewer one simple question. Do you have any questions? Yeah, all right. Because in this way, you will give the signal to the interviewer that you are now complete and that you can basically start into into the discussion after the case. All right. That's pretty much about the case. So I think Omar will show us also what kind of questions are good to ask the interviewer at the end of the interview. Omar Harp. Hello. This is Michael Page from BCG Dubai speaking. Is now a comfortable time for you to speak?
Yes, hi Michael, definitely. I hope all is well with you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. All right, so Omar, let's maybe start with a quick introduction. So my name is Michael Page. I'm a senior engagement manager at BCG Dubai. I have started my career in Switzerland in the pharmaceutical background from ETH Zurich. And roughly 4 years ago, I've moved to Middle East, where I'm also currently supporting many governmental clients in the region. So yeah, that's basically about me in the nutshell. Maybe you could also tell me a little bit more about yourself and what leads you to BCG.
Yes, great, Michael. So I'll start with an introduction about myself and then answer your second question. So basically, I graduated from the American University of Beirut with a BE in civil engineering back in 2019. During my years at EUB, I have been an active student. I participated in several extracurricular and volunteering activities. I was placed on the Dean's Honor List several times, and professionally, I have done 2 internships during the summers of my second and third year. Directly after my second internship, I started a part-time job as a project planner at Malak Trading and Contracting, which is a manufacturing and contracting firm specialized in road infrastructure. Currently, I am the project planner and cost control engineer as I got a full-time opportunity upon graduation. I handle scheduling, planning, budgeting, implementation, and supervision at both the manufacturing plant and the construction site. At the meantime, I'm seeking different growth opportunities to take the next big step in my career, and that is why I am interviewing with you today. Now, moving on to your next question as what draws me towards BCG. So, first off, I know that your company provides its members with a stimulating environment with the diversified business context, unique learning opportunities, and international presence, of course, which I know that all of those are going to help me develop my skills and grow my global acumen to achieve my full potential. Second of all, I have recently had coffee chats with the current and former BCG consultants, and they all emphasized on 2 things at BCG. The first one is that no 2 days are the same, and the second one is the incredibly diverse culture, which I'm looking forward to as it will help me be exposed to people from different cultures, from different backgrounds, and most importantly, people who have different perspectives. So, as such, I believe that this is a great opportunity for me to take this next big step and to fulfill my interest in becoming a strategic business leader and thinker.
Okay, and what actually so excites you in consulting? Why do you
Yeah.
want to join the industry?
Yes. So First off, I want to have a faster paced career with a never ending learning curve and rapid advancement. Second of all, in consulting, every engagement is different. Each client presents a unique challenge, and I know that this will provide me with exposure to what I seek from different management strategies, various industries, and the drivers of those industries. Third, I am a person who loves working in teams, and I'm looking forward to working in a team environment where I can be challenged by mentors and supported by my team members. Finally, and most importantly, I have recently realized my passion for problem solving, like the whole process in general, from where do you identify the problem, scope it out, break it into simpler elements, go about, get the data, tackle each of those tasks at once, to finally present to your client in a way that you know they will be able to implement your recommendations. And this really makes my heart ache for consulting.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, all right, that sounds good. You know what confuses me a little
Hmm.
bit in your CV is basically I don't really get it. Why do you want to work in consulting now
Hmm.
and not after your graduation?
Yes. So as I mentioned before, I had started a part-time job in civil engineering before graduation. So during those professional experiences, I have really developed deep expertise in the field of civil engineering and construction, and I was able to develop a lot of my soft skills. But most importantly, those experiences have taught me that the key to success and profitability, whether that is in construction or any other industry, is time and cost management and adding value to clients. In other words, that would be being efficient and being effective, which is the number one priority in consulting, right?
Yes, right, sure, absolutely. Okay, and where do you see yourself in 10 years from now?
Hmm. Well, to be honest, I am at the point in my career where I am looking to join a reputable company and a growing business where there are clear opportunities for my personal and my professional growth. So, frankly, in 10 years from now, I can happily see myself with BCG as someone who has gained deep expertise in the field of consulting and as someone who will be able to influence major departmental decisions, as I believe that my skills would eventually suit a management role.
Okay, yeah, sure, I agree with that. Okay, what do you think? What are your key strengths? What is the value you could add to our firm?
Mm, mm. Right. So, regarding my strength, first off, I am the type of person who really values teamwork and who understands team dynamics. And most importantly, I am the type of person who sees things from different perspectives. Usually, I utilize common methodologies while tackling any issue that I face before diving further into analyzing specific events, specific actions, and behaviors. And I believe
Can
this
you
stems
maybe
from
give me
my
an example?
yes. So, as I was saying, that this stems from my interest in understanding the psychological aspects of a situation. So, to give you an example, I believe that anyone's action, whether they are your customers, your clients, consumers, they are driven by certain psychological triggers, right? So, to give you an example of that, I was recently reading an article that was discussing e-commerce and how customer behaviors have been changing regarding COVID. So, what really grabbed my interest there was that they described today's consumer as the anxious consumer due to the fears that they have regarding COVID and going out buying their product. So, from my opinion, understanding this would lead us to understanding what can we do in order to mitigate the fears and the needs of our clients to be able to satisfy those needs eventually.
Okay, sounds interesting. Okay, can you actually be honest with me, and can you maybe tell me
Hmm.
what are the three things which your boss currently would criticize about yourself?
Hmm. Mm. Okay, great. So to begin with, I have recently realized a weakness of mine, and my boss actually criticized me with it. So I really got affected by the surrounding work environment. So if everyone around me and the team that I'm working with are enthusiastic, they're productive, this really brings out the best in me as I thrive on those conditions. However, if not, I really feel that this affects my productivity and my efficiency and my enthusiasm at work. However, now that I know I have a weakness in this area, whenever I'm in such an environment, I always try to be the one who drives and motivates the team towards achieving their objective and the most out of it. Because if no one steps up, it's going to have a negative impact over the whole atmosphere, right?
Okay,
Now,
Cleo, what's the next one?
yes. Moving on to the next one, I am the type of person who really gives a lot of attention to details, and my boss criticized me more than once over that. But the reason behind it, I always
Okay, what's the problem with paying attention to the details?
yes. So I always try to like deliver an exceptional product and exceed
So
my
you
client expectations.
overcomplicate these things, right?
Yes, I usually spend more time than needed in order to eliminate, let's say, 1 or 2% error. So it takes,
So you are not very friendly with 80-20 Pareto principle, don't you?
I was first, but now that I'm aware of this, what I would do is that I would break my plan into many tasks and assign deadlines for each of those tasks. So if something is imperfect, I would move on, and if I have time left, I would come back to work on that. I would be better able to evaluate the situation and if it needs more effort.
Okay, all right, I see. Yeah, sounds good. Can you actually maybe tell me a situation like, where you needed to solve a conflict
Hmm.
in the working environment, and how did you manage that?
Okay, so yeah, I once had a conflict with one of the team leaders of one of the construction crews at the company where I work in. So it became a bit annoying because he wasn't opening up to suggestions that I was giving him towards changing his practices and the way he does work. Now, what I usually do in such situations, I seek to understand before being understood, and I kind of found the reason behind his actions. So people in such an industry, he's much older than I am, and he has spent most of his life doing what he does. So they find it a bit hard to take suggestions from an inexperienced graduate, which is me in this case. So what I have done was I got into a conversation with him. I praised him first that he has a lot more experience than I do, and I have a lot to learn from him. However, industry practices evolve; they don't stay the same as they were 10 or 4 or even 3 years ago, and there's always more discoveries and updates in the industry. And in fact, he also has a lot to learn from me because we are working towards the same objective. So the relationship with him got a bit better with time, and in fact, productivity and efficiency increased, and the quality of our work as we were combining his deep expertise in the field with my academic qualifications and staying updated on industry practices to better serve our clients.
Okay, all right, I see. Sounds good. So, yeah, Omar, are you up maybe to do a quick exercise?
Yes, I would love
To,
to.
okay, all right, Omar. So, I have the following question to you. So, one of my previous clients was a pharma finance, and it has just finalized its very first investment round and has raised 14 million euros to invest in the build-up of a pharmaceutical manufacturing company.
Mm,
So its CEO is mainly interested in high margins and profitable markets with a sustainable green production. So this is why he wants you, as part of BCG team, to find out if the market entry, if in one of the countries in the Middle East, let's call it a new land country, so it's a little bit unknown, whether this would make sense. And the aim is to build a company from the scratch. There are currently no other local companies in the market, and government is also dedicated to support the efforts and the market entry with a fixed enforced market percentage. So the market share will be fixed. Primarily, the company should be focused only on the local market, and there is also no need to calculate the costs or revenues for international expansion. So it's all about this one country, let's say in the Middle East. And the clear production focus will be on painkillers, such as so 4 drugs, aspirin, ibuprofen, paracetamol, and diclofenac. They will be sold either as tablets and powders to dissolve in water or as liquids. And there are no licensing costs for products, or no R&D or regulatory costs. So all other costs can be omitted. Did you get the case so far?
Yes. First off, thank you for this really interesting case. I'd like just to take a moment to restate the prompt really quickly to make sure that I've got everything.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so our client is a pharma finance company, and they have raised 40 million euros, and they're looking to invest those in building up a pharmaceutical company in a country in the Middle East called the New Land. They are looking to build this new company from scratch, and their main focus is painkillers at the time being. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Yep. If you don't mind, Michael, I have some clarification questions to ask you before we.
Yeah, sure.
Right. So, first off, with respect to, you've mentioned that we've got government support with fixed percentage, like a fixed market share. Can you clarify that a bit more?
Yeah, so basically, the government attracts the foreign players to build up a facility, pharma facility in the country, and they will provide the fixed market share. So the company, I think they would be having something about 20% of the overall market share, but I need to check that again.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so this will be like the 20% market share within 5 years of operations. So the government commits and guarantees that the company may count with this market share.
Right. Okay. Great. And this is like just for 5 years. Is there a specific duration for how much they are guaranteeing this?
No, there is no specific duration, but maybe, about your next question
Okay.
about the objectives. So the
Yeah.
objective is to make the highest return on investment, and the investment period, so the payback period should be within 5 years.
Okay. Okay, great, Michael. I think I have everything I would need in order to start. So, would it be okay if I take a minute to structure my thoughts on this?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Right. Michael, I think I have a clear idea on how I would like to approach this issue. So, first off, my initial hypothesis would say that we should go for this investment if it can pay back in 5 years, since that's the main objective of our client. So, in order to find that out, I have broken my analysis into three parts. In the first part, the first bucket here would be the market, the second would be the financials of this initiative, and the third would be the risks that are associated and other alternatives. So, with respect to my first bucket, what I would like to look at is the size of the market and the growth rate of those four drugs that we are planning to manufacture. In addition to that, here I would like to disregard competition because we have a guaranteed 20% market share, unless
Mhm.
we can go further after those 20%, like we can grab 30 or 40. So I'm not really familiar with how the government operates here. Second of all, I would move towards the financials of the situation and thus try to calculate the profitability. So I will divide that into revenues and costs. And the revenue side, we have our revenue streams, which are mainly the four products that we provide, unless there is something else, multiplying those by the prices in order to find out how much are we expected to generate. After that, I move to the cost side. Here we have an initial investment cost since we are opening a new plant, and we have the operating expenses. So after calculating those, in order to find out the payback period, I will find out the profitability of each year that we're having and compare that to the initial investment that we will pay upfront. Finally, after understanding the situation, I will be able to move to my third bucket, which are the risks associated. And if we find out that this initiative doesn't really have the potential and won't actually achieve our client's objective, I would look into other alternatives that might achieve their goals. Does that sound
Mhm.
reasonable to you?
Yes, that sounds reasonable to me. And let's basically start with the market assessment. And
Okay.
first of all, I would like to quantify you what is the size of the market. So maybe you could do
Mm,
the market sizing exercise, and let's see
mm.
how do you tend to overcomplicate the things.
Yeah, I don't know where you heard that I overcomplicate the things. Like I
Like
look,
from your last boss.
yeah, I look into details. I don't overcomplicate.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right.
So,
Cool. So, Omar,
mm,
maybe you could give me the list of all the information which you require in order to do the calculation and explain
mm.
me your logic. So then I will provide this to you.
Okay, great. So, can I just take a minute to structure my logic on how I'm estimating the market size? And
Yes,
just
go ahead.
yeah, to clarify something before going in, I'm trying to estimate this from a demand perspective, like how much
Mhm.
of the people of
Yes,
new land
yes.
are
Please
looking.
go through the demand perspective.
Okay, great.
While Omar is doing that calculation, I have a question to all other guys here in the room. Maybe it's worth for you also to try to solve this case together with us and see what kind of outcomes you will get.
Uh, yes, Michael, I think I'm done with my
Yes,
logic work.
tell
Right.
me.
So, first of all, in order to estimate the market size of those four drugs, I would like to start with the population of this country. And from my understanding, those four drugs are used for, they are painkillers and they're mostly used for headache. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm going to take a percentage of the population that suffer from headache, and then I'm going to divide those into three main segments. So people who are heavy users of painkillers, people who are medium users, and people who are low users. Finally, I will be able to find
So
out
you
how much
basically want to have the consumption rate, right?
exactly. Yes,
Okay. Yes.
yes.
Okay. What else?
In addition to that, after finding the number of, let's say, pills or the packs that we are selling, I would like to know the prices of those drugs in order to find out the market size in a dollar value, let's say.
Okay. What else?
Yes, that's basically it at the moment. Yes, there is, there is one more thing I would like to ask you. So, here we are assuming that our main customers, they are like people who are suffering from this, but aren't there are hospitals that would buy those drugs?
It doesn't matter in that case.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. So,
What
yeah,
else?
I believe those are the things I would need at the time being.
And if you think about it one more time, maybe if there is something missing.
Right. Can I take just a moment for that to make sure?
Yes.
Yes. Michael, I think we should also consider other alternatives for people who suffer from headache. Like how much?
Okay,
How
but
much?
this was not what I meant. What else do you? What other factor do you need in order to calculate the market size?
Right. So, in order to calculate the market size, we would need the number of packs that are sold or pills that are sold, and multiplying that by the prices of those. Right.
Exactly. So the price was missing. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
So
I asked you
let's.
about the price just to clarify on that.
Okay. Sure. Okay. So the population of the country is 5 million inhabitants. And average consumption is 50 standard doses per person per year. Market shares of all those products of all four are equally spread. Tablets and powders are 80% of the consumed standard doses in the market. And then price for all drugs is $5 either for 20 tablets or for 20 liquids. Then one tablet and one powder is equal to one standard dose, and one liquid equals to 2 standard doses.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yes. Okay, great, Michael.
Maybe you could now calculate the overall market size in US dollars.
Yes, definitely. But can I first restate the numbers to make sure I haven't got anything wrong?
Sure.
Right. So we've got 5 million inhabitants. Each of those would need 50 doses per year. The market share is equally spread across all of those drugs. There are 80% of those who would be tablet and powder drugs. The price is $5 for 20 tablets or 20 liquids. One liquid is 2 doses and one tablet is 1 dose, right?
Yes, one tablet or one powder is one dose, and one liquid is 2 doses.
Okay, great. Just one more thing to ask here. So, from what I understood, that we sell both of those, right?
Yes, we want to sell all of them.
Okay, great, great.
So we want to sell 4 drugs, and we want to sell both liquids, powders, and tablets.
Right. So what I'm going to do first is calculate the number of doses needed per year for the overall population. So we've got 5 million inhabitants. Multiplying that by 50, I know that 5 million multiplied by 5 is 25 million. So I'm just going to add a 0 to that, and that would be 250 million doses, right? So out of those, we've got 80% in the form of tablets and powder, and we've got 20% in the form of liquid. So,
correct.
Right. Okay, so with respect to those doses, the 250 million, getting 20% of that to calculate how much of those are liquid, 10% of 250 million is 25 million, so 20% would be 50 million doses, right?
Mhm.
And we've got the other 80%, which are those for tablets and powders. So that would be 250 million minus the 20%, which is 50, and it would end up at 200 million doses, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if we want to look at it from the perspective of doses, one liquid would be two doses and one tablet would be one dose. So, in order to calculate that, we've got 50 million doses over two, and we can end up with 25 million. That would be the
Yeah,
liquid
great.
proportion.
Okay,
Right.
let's move on.
And for the other one, we've got the 200 million as is. Now, what's left for us to do is divide each of those by 20 in order to find out how many packs are we selling,
Mhm.
right? So with respect to the liquid, we've got 25 million divided by 20. So I know that 25 million divided by 2 is 12.5 million. So removing one zero from that would be 1.25 million. And with respect to the tablet and the powder, we've got 200 million divided by 20. So that's 100 million, removing a zero, that would be 10 million. So in order to calculate the market size in dollar value, we've got 10 million, which is for the powder and tablets, and we've got 1.25 for the liquid. So that would be 11.25 multiplied by $5, right? 11.25 million. So that would give me a total of 55 million plus 1.25, and that would be $56.25 million per year. Does that make
Brilliant.
sense?
Yeah, thank you
Right.
very much. It's
Thanks.
yeah, correct.
Okay.
So let's basically move on.
Yes.
Let's understand whether the investment
Mm.
can actually make sense.
Yeah.
So the question is, can pharma finance lift the investment of the build up on its own?
Right, exactly. So the first thing that we need to find out here is the 20% of this market that we are guaranteed to have. So that would be 20% of 56.25 million, which is basically our revenues. So that would be 5.625 multiplied by 2, and thus our expected revenues for the first year are $11.25 million.
Yeah, that's absolutely
Right?
correct.
Okay, so what I would like to move into next is calculating how much are we go this is going to cost us in terms of investment. So first off, I would need the initial investment that we are going to pay, and second, I would need the operating expenses that we would need in order to produce these quantities. Do we have this
Okay.
information?
Yeah, that's very good. So one production line includes the needed facilities, is about 10 million euros. Sorry, 10 million US dollars, and has an output of roughly 30 million tablets or powders, or of 5 million liquid doses per year.
Hmm.
And further investment costs are, so one-time investment costs are equal to 5 million. So keep that in mind, that you have to consider machinery changes to produce the different drugs. So
Right.
basically, you can allocate like one machine line to producing one drug. One machine line is equal to 10 million US dollars, and there is you might be having several machine lines, and there is 5 million one-time costs.
Okay, so the 5 million one-time cost is definite. Now what we're left with is the cost of our production line. Now what I would like to ask here is there any possibility that we can use the same production line maybe half of the year for one product, half of the year for the other, or is it
I wouldn't recommend that.
okay? Okay, great. So here I'm thinking of two options. Is there a possibility that we can produce only one of the products, like either tablet or powder or either the liquid?
Yeah.
Yeah, because from my initial hypothesis here would say that if we're going to pay $10 million in order to, let's say, produce 5 million doses of the liquid, and the only thing needed is 1.25, so that's around 25%. And if we look at the thing regarding the tablets and the powders, that would be like, we need 10 million to satisfy the market. We can produce 30, so that's around 33%, which is a bit more. Right?
Yeah,
So
that's true.
would you like me to take both into account, or should I go for one of them? What would you
You have a limited budget, so do
Yeah.
whatever is best within your budget.
Okay. Now, in order to look at it from a budget perspective, what I would also need is the operating expenses. Now, our budget is 40 million euros, but from what I understand, should I use it as $40 million as we're working with dollars, or should I use the exchange
Yes.
rate? 40
So
million
use it
dollars.
for, yeah, exactly.
Okay. So we've got $40 million, and that's a one-time thing that we can pay. Okay. For the whole 5 years.
Yeah.
Right. And how much would our operating expenses be?
So variable costs are 1 million US dollars for tablets and powders, or 2 million for liquids per production line per year. All variable costs occurring due to production will be covered through the sales directly. There is also no market growth expected.
Okay. Okay, great. So, considering that we have a budget constraint, I would like to evaluate two options. The first option is that we are selling the tablet and powder, and the second one is that we are going for the liquid. Would that be reasonable?
Can you maybe just tell me, first of all, answer the question, can pharma finance leave the investment of the build-up on its own?
Okay. Okay, great. So if we're looking at the build-up here, we've got 10 million for each production line. So if we're looking at both, we would have 20 million plus the $5 million. And this is our initial investment. So yes, they can. But if we, especially since the variable costs are covered from the sales. So I believe that, yes, they can do that within the budget.
Okay. All right.
Right.
Then sounds good. So can you then maybe, given the market size and the investment cost, is the investment interesting based on the goal of the pharma finance for the next 5 years?
Okay, okay, great. So based on their goals, we've got a $25 million as an initial investment, and they want that to pay back in 5 years, right? Now,
Within 5 years.
yes, we are going to get 20% of the market directly from the point that we enter the market towards those 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, great. So to calculate the profit that we are going to generate yearly, we have got $11.25 million, which are our revenues, and this subtracting from those our variable costs, which are $1 million. So that would be 8.25 million in profits per year, right? So if we want to look at that, they would be able to barely pay back after the third year, because they would have generated $24.75 million in profit. So they would need 2 years and 1 month, let's say, and that would satisfy our client objective. So yes, from their point of view, this seems like a good investment to go for.
Okay. And can you actually tell me what would be the ROI of this investment?
Yes, so with respect to the ROI, in order to calculate that, we would got the profit, which is 8.5 over the initial investment, which is 25. Is that right?
Sorry, say again, please.
Yes, we've got the profit or divided by the initial investment, which is 25 million.
Yes, but you also have some operating costs, don't you?
Yes, but in order to calculate the profit, I have subtracted our revenues from the operating costs, which are the variable costs. Or do you mean that we have other variable costs? other operating
No,
costs?
we basically we
Mm,
need to take into account the investment, the one time, the investment into production facilities, and then
mm.
of course the operating costs.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry about that. I thought that the operating costs are included in our variable cost. So
No,
what would be our operating cost?
sorry. Yeah, I mean this you get right, but
Okay,
why do you get the figure of 25 million?
25 million is our initial investment, which is the 20 million for the two production lines and the one-time payment of $5 million.
Yeah, that's okay, but is that still the optimal one, given the fact that you have a budget of 40 million?
Okay, so it's right that we have more budget than than what do we have to pay as an initial investment. But what I see here is that first off, the 20% market share that we expected to get would need 10 million in tablets and powder and 1.25 million in the liquid oil. And taking that into consideration, those are won't exceed 33% of our production capacity. So I see no point in opening up more production lines.
Mhm.
So for that, if our client really loves to invest all those 40 million, I would maybe look at
No,
another
that's
setup.
absolutely right. Insight that you have got so far.
Mm,
That doesn't make sense to build up more than two lines.
okay,
Okay. All
right.
right. Cool. So, what would you say, and what would you recommend to our CEO?
Okay, great. Can I take a moment just to write down my recommendation?
Yeah, sure. Go
Great.
ahead.
Yes, Michael. So what I would recommend for our COO is yes to go for this investment as it satisfies their objectives and the payback period would be 3 years and 1 month approximately. And the ROI for this investment is around 32%. However, there are some things they should take into consideration, such as the contract that they have with the government. And another thing is that we have a lot of free production capacity, like we're operating at 33%. So moving forward, what I would like to help our client with is to use this free production. And in order to do that, I would like to maybe renegotiate with the government whether we can increase this 20% market share in order to be operating at full capacity. So does that
Mhm.
sound reasonable? Do you have any questions for me?
Now that sounds good. All right. Thank you very much. Yeah. Do you have any questions to me?
Mm, actually, yes, I do have one. So I would like to ask. I know that BCG is somehow leading in the digital industry, especially with BCG Digital and the solutions that they are providing their clients. But what I want to ask about is whether there are digital upskilling initiatives for consultants at BCG, like whether the employees can get into some trainings where they can advance their
Mhm.
skills regarding AI, and use those in automotive and automating things where they can, let's say, increase their productivity with respect to some of the repetitive workflows that they have.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Sure. So, Omar, in case you're going to work with BCG Digital, then
Mm,
you also had a very structured set of your trainings, seminars, additional skills which you can apply and learn either within the company or
mm.
outside of it. So don't worry, you won't be led alone. There is a good onboarding program designed for you. Okay. All right,
Okay.
Omar. Any further questions before we leave?
No, thank you so much, Michael.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Omar. It was a pleasure speaking to you, and our HR will get back to you with the next steps.
Yeah,
Okay.
looking forward. Have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit how we can also help you as candidates in order to get your offers in 2021. So what kind of help do we provide? Basically, we support I myself and our colleagues, we support you along the entire application process. So starting from setting the right objectives, like what are the firms, what are the positions in which regions which are right for you. Then in the next step, we will help you to polish your CV and cover letter, because nowadays it's extremely important to have a very proper documents, because the whole industry is becoming more and more competitive during the COVID situation. Then one of our key essential assets is about networking. So I have a gift of actually helping in networking a lot. Maybe Omar, can you tell me a little bit more about how did you experience that? So in terms of networking, what kind of approaches you are using and whether it's useful for you or not?
Yes, so basically, Andre have been a great help with every aspect of the process, but with networking in specific, as it is one of the most important parts. Especially nowadays, there are less opportunities, especially due to COVID and what has been happening, and there is much more competition. So the candidate must stand out. And with respect to networking, you will like approach people from consulting firms, try to get their advice, try to get their help and their views on things going in the industry. And it's also a chance to impress those people and maybe get a referral directly to be invited to one of the interviews. So I believe it's one of the most important parts. It's almost as important as solving a case. And yeah, that's it. That's it mainly. Did I miss
Yeah, and I
anything,
also
Andre?
want, yeah, thank you very much. I think that Omar has networking in his blood already now, so he's one of the best networkers out of the candidates which whom I have seen and coached. And what is important is that I have networking. I have many friends, former colleagues, and now increasing number of my mentees who work with all the leading consulting firms across the world in the Northern America, in different parts of Europe, in Russia, in the Middle East, in Southeastern Asia. So I can help you to leverage also all these contacts for your advantage in order to help you get referred with the firm and secure your interview invites. Okay, and then what you have seen today was part of the interview preparation process. So where we basically help the candidates to prepare for the first, for the second, for the final interview rounds, with different types of cases, different types of questions, different difficulties, etc. Then we support the candidates with getting the offers, so walking them through the application process and then making the right decision. So if you have several offers on your pocket, what should you do? What kind of career would you like to build to yourself? And but we don't stop that, because we also help you to prepare for your career in consulting, where I leverage my experience, which helped me to get promoted 2 times within just 18 months at Rollenberger, which was considered to be extremely fast. So it was like fast track, because the normal promotion cycles are between 18 and 24 months for just one promotion cycle. And within Yeah, and this basically ultimately results in in the number of offers which our clients also get. So just to give you very fresh examples, like last month in November, 3 mentees of mine have started new consulting positions, 2 of them in Germany and 1 in UK. And just 2 weeks ago, I also got a notification and a call from 2 of my clients who mentioned that they received 3 offers from Middle East, from Dubai, from Roland Berger Strategy and Oliver Wyman. And now even more people are in the pipeline, and I'm happy to help all of you to get your offers in 2021.
Great. So, guys, I will, okay, not me, one of our colleagues already sent to you the form, webinar satisfaction survey. Can you please fill it? It's really very important for us. For the future, we will know how to improve and what are the useful information we can provide to you. So please ask you to fill this form. We will be very thankful for this. And
can you just all guys go into the chat function, click on it, and leave your comment as we are just now speaking. It is really very, very important for us, because with the following webinars in the next year, we want to deliver you even a better content with a better organization, with better guests, better sort of discussion, so that you could really benefit from each webinar at most. So may I just kindly ask you guys to go into the chat function, to click on the link. It's the Google Docs form. Just click on it and fill it out as we now speak. This is really very, very important for us. I really thank you so much for that. Alina, please continue.
Yes, okay. And so guys, those who stayed with us, you will receive the following goodies. We'll send you a brief presentation of the webinar. Also, we'll send you a list of the leading consulting companies and 3 case books, so you can already start your preparation and achieve your goals. And you will be also contacted by me and my colleague Polina, another client manager, and we can schedule with you a quick consultation call and discuss your current situation, discuss all the questions that you have, and start to work together and help you with your problem and in your current situation. Okay, and next slide, please.
All right, cool. Yeah, thank you very much. I think we are coming to the end of the webinar. And I just would like to say thank you very much to every one of you who have attended and stayed with us until that moment. I would like to say a special thank you to one of our clients, Omar Harb. It was a great performance today. You could be really very proud of you. And if you do exactly the same job during your interview with BCG, I'm pretty sure that you will get your offer, which is the ultimate objective of the whole exercise. And I would also like to say thank you to my team. Maybe my team could also show up here. So to Alina, to Alessa, to Victoria, to Michael, who were supporting me during all of this time and the preparation of that webinar. It was a pleasure to work with you.